Welcome to the Wizards of Ecom, your no-fluff playbook for online success. Each episode is fully packed with actionable tactics you can implement in your business right now. Take your life to a higher level and excel in your online success. It's time to work on you and your business. Let's do this.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Wizards of Ecom. This is Yoni, your host, and today we are joined by none other than Yoni Kozminski. He is founder and CEO of Scala and MultyiplyMii, and also host of the Successful Scale podcast. Yoni, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Naomi. It's a pleasure to be here, and just excited to be sharing the stage with you again.
Thank you. And the reason why you're saying again is because you presented brilliantly 2 times already to our group. Once it was about how to scale, and the second one, it was exactly about the hiring process that we're going to talk actually today about. So it's my pleasure to have you back on the show. And basically that was also the reason why I wanted to have you on. I feel that this is a super important subject that most people are talking either at very advanced level, either at very non-sophisticated level. And there should be a ground in between for everyone to understand, okay, if it's my next step is to scale, what should I do? And the reason I'm also having you on is because you're also a former Amazon private label seller and you successfully sold your brand. And you had a brilliant process there. And that's something that I think most people are missing. So today's topic, exactly that's going to be about how to go from A to Z when it comes to having a successful Amazon private label brand and how to scale it. So this is going to be the topic.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited to talk about it. And, at any point, dive in. I'm just going to literally, this is all off the cuff stuff. So if there's questions, like when we were on the Wizards of E-commerce presentation, talking about hiring, recruiting, and retaining top talent in e-commerce, feel free to jump in. So I joined the business. I want to make a few key distinctions just to give people a real understanding of when did I enter, when did I exit, and what were the levers that I helped pull in order for this operation to scale and effectively move from the classic solopreneur. So the business was at about $2 million in revenue when I joined in 2018. I was there for about 12 months and grew it to $5 million. So we more than doubled the revenue, and we also became more profitable. And there were a whole lot of stages that we took in order to get there. And I think the first thing for anyone who's looking to embark on this journey of no longer being the solopreneur, no longer being the person who's stuck inside of their business and really the lifeblood of everything that's going on, you really need to think through, well, who do I want to be? And what does that look like a year down the line, 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line? What do I want my lifestyle to look like? Because I'll say, I know exits are all the rage right now and it's, the big payday, which it is, but you really have to think about a whole lot of different areas around it. Like if you sold your business tomorrow, firstly, you'd have one hell of a payday, but how are you generating revenue after that? Do you have a game plan for what's next? For a lot of entrepreneurs, it's the excitement. Particularly, I work with a lot of serious e-commerce and Amazon sellers, and they love product development. So, you're going into another business. Are you trying a different vertical? What's the next stage? Or are you happy to cruise or go for investments? Or do you like actually being a part of the business? Are there things that you don't want to be in? So I'd say first understand, where do you sit in relation to your business and your time investment? If you're someone who has sort of, only invests 4 or 5, 10 hours a week into your business and it's continuing to grow and it's really steady and you feel secure and you've distributed the revenue streams and it's not just 100% reliant on Amazon, for example, then, maybe you don't need to go down that path. But if that's you and you're spending 10 hours, then you're already well ahead of what I want to talk to you guys about today. So without going too further on and theorizing, I want to just share lastly, I spent 10 years in creative advertising and digital marketing. So my background was growing up with agencies looking after real strategy for Sony and MasterCard, Mercedes-Benz, Medtronic, and working with designers and developers and content writers and videographers and photographers and copywriters and social media specialists and, you name it, the works, UX, UI designers. So I came pretty ready built, understanding what it is to build out that team. But the first thing I did was I took a stock take of really understanding, how is the business operating today? So, there were 2 founders, they had 4 or 5 employees, and the founder, one of the main founders, or one of the two founders, he was in everything, every aspect. He was doing PPC management. He was doing listing optimization. He was the one responsible for Helium 10. He was the one who was also deciding like inventory quantity orders. Like he was doing absolutely everything. And, you can do that up until a point, right? You can get to, if you don't have a very complex product, you could probably comfortably do it $1 million, even $2 million. You could probably do it. But we had one product that had 17 suppliers. Okay. So for all of you who are selling, you understand what that means to have 17 different suppliers and bringing that together. That's a complex product. And that was just one of about 35 we sold. That was the most complex. The rest of them were pretty great and had incredible margins. But taking a stock take, really understand, where do I sit, and am I still doing all the things that I can do, or am I doing the things that I'm actually best at? And if I'm doing the things that I'm best at and I'm feeling energized in what it is I'm doing, I'm delivering at a really high output, then great. You're in a really good position and you're happy where you're at. If that's not you, if you're handling absolutely everything and you're not really that great at numbers, you sort of like more of the product development, creative you can handle, but like, you're lucky to spell my last name correctly, which is a tough one. The reality is you really need to start to assess, do I have the best people in the right seats, and are they actually moving the needle forward, or am I sort of Groundhog Day and 100% accountable? So what I did was I mapped out the org chart and the processes around that business. So who did we have? Who was capable? Who wasn't? How do we reshuffle the team? And so I ended up building out an entire team in the Philippines of project managers, graphic designers, a creative director. We even had our photography and production work done over there. I leveraged a production house and just really doubled down, because I found talent that, I talked a little bit about it in the last presentation, but, once you move past onlinejobs.ph and solutions like that, you find an incredibly rich and deep talent pool in high-level professional services. And that's what I found. And that was sort of the catalyst of the businesses that I work in today. But that was just the first framework, was that we started to get the right people in the right seats, but then we really started to take control of the organization. So we started to document and define the processes that existed inside of that business. And we started to then, once we had a real clear visual and we had the SOPs and we'd hired talent to effectively manage it, then we moved into a position of, this is really scalable, and how can we optimize certain functions in the business? So, not just how do we find a cheaper supplier, but, are there too many touch points here? Are there too many people involved, or is it too much on one individual and it's not a realistic timeline? I often ask sellers the question, like, how many new product ideas do you have? And they'll say 1 million. And say, well, what's stopping you from actually creating 5 new products each quarter, or 10 or 50 new products next year? And they'll just say, well, I don't have the resources or time. If you document that out and you build out that system and that process, and you understand what's the ROI on that investment, then I start to make much more strategic decisions as to what's my business going to look like as well. And if you're really strategic and exit is your objective, then you're working backwards and you're looking at, well, what are potential acquirers looking at as valuable assets, and how do I drive towards their absolute optimal acquisition target, and how do I get prepared in that capacity, and what are the levers that I can pull over the next 12, 24, 36 months that will actually increase my trailing 12-month EBITDA or SDE, and what are the things that I can really do to hand it over to them in a way that there's real weight behind it. And this is the most attractive strategic decision they could make, as we're talking about aggregators here, obviously.
Yeah, I loved it. And you just went through, I think, at least 20 of my questions, which I love it. So you answered it. And that's
sorry, I got a bit carried away there.
No, it's brilliant. Like, whenever someone is like so much in the flow and they're like talking exactly what I was about to ask, so just go on. So that's brilliant. I think that what you said is so like, it's so organized, but I see most of the time, I wish that everyone would be like that, but most people are not, and just to reverse engineer of, like, you were there already, you built the business, you scaled the business, you already knew, you already had your team. How do you, from one person, let's put me, or like most people are like me, like even they are selling successfully and even they are like selling, let's say, enough, I would say, they are still not there. They're still the solo entrepreneur, they might have one VA, two VA, or so on. So scaling back to that, from being the successful seller that's selling their business, how could, let's put it this way, I become that seller if we're reverse engineering? Who's the first one that I'm going to hire in this scenario? Who's the first one that I'm going to maybe go over the online PH jobs website and just see? Because what you're seeing like a complete world already. Me as a like small seller, maybe solo entrepreneur, cannot see that. So how can I see what you see?
Yeah, great question. So I'd say the first step in everything is having a deep understanding of where do I sit in my current day. And, not in any great detail, but who do I hope to be? So let's take like the really, and I don't like to use the vanity metrics that are revenue because it doesn't really tell you a full picture of what's happening in a business at all. But let's just say that you're selling, you're making $20,000 a month right now. You have two VAs that are helping you out to do customer support, and maybe you've got a freelance designer, and that's where you're at, right? And you want to go and you want to double that, or you want to get to 100,000 a month, or whatever your goal is. So what you need to do, how I would approach this, not what you need to do.
No.
Who am I to tell anyone what they need to do?
Exactly. That's the way I'm going to approach. This is why I have you on the podcast.
Yeah. So how I would personally approach it would be, I would look at effectively, well, how am I investing my time firstly? So, really simple thing to do is looking at breaking down your week into, it helps if you're organized, guys. I'm just going to tell you that straight off the bat. If you're an organized person, these things are a lot easier. If you're not, then it's definitely, yeah. I don't know about doomed, but you definitely need to bring potentially, that might be the first hire, someone to actually sort you out and really make sure that your ducks are in a row, as they say. So I would assess what's my impact. So I document like of the 40 hours or 60 hours or 80 hours or however many hours you're working a week. Hopefully it's not 80 hours. You look at what are the tasks that I'm performing. So, reaching out to, sellers funding or 8Fig or a provider like that to gain a loan. Okay, that has to be me because I'm the one with the financials. I'm still at that point where I don't have an accounts payable and receivable team, and I'm keeping everything close to my chest. It's usually one of the last things that owners give up, is like the keys to the financials. So let's say you mark that as a 5, something that has to be you, but something like giving the creative briefing for the product, for example. Like maybe there's someone who's living in, the customer support person knows it even better than you do, whatever. Mark that as a 3 or a 2. It doesn't necessarily need to be you who does it, and work through your week and understand, how do I firstly divide up my time so that I understand how I'm most effective in doing the things that I do. And then you can start to build a role around that. I think that's like it's like a baptism of fire, really, of like how everyone goes from working with VAs and sort of filling plugs, which creates its own workload of, you have to brief them in on all the things you need, versus then starting to go to the next level where I look at it strategically around the business. Like, what are the things that take the most time and resource? And at the moment, if you're small, it's really your time is the most valuable thing in the business. So how do I then move entire functions off of my plate? So how do I hire a PPC manager internally and have them handle that? Even though I love it, someone's going to be able to take it to 80%, and maybe I'm just an approver. I don't necessarily need to be the producer of that. So, or graphic design, or maybe you leverage an agency. Again, depends on where you sit and where your passions are. And, it's not a one size fits all solution. And, there's lots of factors that you need to consider, as well as like capital, how much you can invest, and how far into the future you want to see you're going to take on debt. Are you confident in your decisions? So I'd say like the first step is to graduate from you not doing everything to having team members that maybe are lower level that can handle things like VAs, for example. And then you graduate to the next stage. And the next stage is when you start to hire professionals. And, these professionals will run departments. So when you ask about like, who's the first person you hire, I'd ask you the question, who do you want to be? Do you want to be a 7, 8, 9-figure Amazon seller? Well, you need to bring in the talent effectively to be able to achieve those things. And you need to be able to build the roadmap of what that really looks like. So that would be the first sort of thing I'd look at.
Brilliant. I love that you said that. Who do you want to be? It's super, super important. Most of the time it's like, this is who I am. And I know that I want to become that person that is, yes, successful, 7-figure, 8-figure, whatever, but I don't know how to like come up with a roadmap. So I love that also you were saying about professionals. During your presentation, not many people are talking about this, but during your presentation, you were very like specific about having general talent versus like professional talent. So how would you execute that idea here as well?
Yeah, so I don't want to drive it home because, like I said, it's like you have to go through, or most people go through that experience where they bring on a virtual assistant and they sort of learn. I'm like very anti the idea of the term virtual assistants. Like my personal belief, I think that it ruins people's careers. You want to have professionals being, specifically good at whatever their function is in the business and growing that talent exponentially, so they are the most valuable team member you can have. And so that's why like we avoid hiring VAs, because they're always very sort of abstract and it's doing a whole lot of little things, and jack of all trades, master of none, as they say. So when I'm looking to effectively build this out, and what I was sharing in that presentation is what we like to do is we build the mission statement effectively against the team member. So what will this person achieve if successful? And then once we build that, what are the outcomes that need to happen to achieve that mission? And then we look for what are the attributes that are needed to serve and deliver on those outcomes that will result in that mission being completed effectively or achieved. So that's how we approach our hiring process for how we, effectively internally now, we're at a stage where we have people poaching people internally from different teams. And we're at a point where you have to make like a business case as to why they should move across. And, also when they want new hires, it's, well, what's the value to business? Everyone can suggest if they want to bring on more talent, but what's the return on investment? It doesn't necessarily need to be an immediate monetary return on investment, but what is the benefit to the business? But again, that's like, these are new things for me as well. And I'm running a company that has over 200 people on payroll and, directly managing over 60 people. So it's well, not me personally, actually, I'm not very operational, but I'm saying like us as an entity. So I think that it's really important to walk before you run, or crawl before you walk. And so that's why, going back to the original question about like, my position on VA and how we approach it, is you need to make sure that you're learning the lessons or leveraging the people who have learned those lessons before you, so that you don't cut your teeth on a bigger expense. The true cost of a bad hire is about 15 times the base salary. So if you simply start to just dump in, 6-figure talent in the US and, you go guns blazing, then be prepared to pay, a $1.5 million penalty up to on loss of time and, wasted resources that didn't really move the needle. So that's also when we go back to sort of the advice I like to give people, is a lot of people will come to us, MultyiplyMii, our staffing business, and say, well, I need a director of marketing. And when you start to ask the questions and you talk about what's the mission and what are the outcomes and what are the attributes, it turns out that really you just needed someone to build you external traffic. You don't need to invest in a director of marketing. You need to get to the people that are going to help get you to the next stage and the next stage. I mean, a lot of people throw the term around scaling. We'll scale your ads, we'll scale your this, we'll scale your that. I mean, that's really just, I invest and I get an ROI, and that's a monetary thing. Scaling is where you continue to actually grow the offering and you're cognizant of the profitability of the actual business as a whole. So it's about how do I actually build an operation that can sustain a bigger operation, not just how do I invest more money and yield a bigger return on ad spend, for example. But again, that's just going, the point I'm trying to make here is you have to start somewhere. And so don't feel obligated to dive in and just say, great, I'm going to hire everyone. I want to be a 9-figure seller, so I'm just going to hire all 9-figure talent. Like, it rarely works like that.
Understood. And in this scenario, because most people are like that, most people are going to have maybe a general VA or maybe like social media VA that's going to do 100 tests that's not social media related. I'm also guilty of that, right? Most people are, to be very honest.
We all are.
Right?
I'll put my hand up and say I went through it too. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a baptism of fire. You cut your teeth on these lessons, and at some point you realize, well, I don't want to be doing all the thinking. Like, it's amazing for me now at the stage we're at, where I get on our senior leadership meetings and I can't believe the things that the team comes up with. Like, it's way better than anything I would come up with on my own, or potentially even be able to contribute. Like, they're just star-studded. So I'm saying, like, you build up to that stage, and when you have a very defined vision around the business and where you're headed, and what are the key roles that you need to be successful, and what attributes of these people. So it's very cyclical, and you sort of take those incremental steps to get to, it's endless, right?
Yeah, definitely. So in this scenario, because most people are doing it, and most people still like believe that it's the best way how they can actually use someone else. They put it as VA, the air quotes, And here, what would your suggestion be? Because most people might be hiring full-time, like help in this scenario, help them with everything in their business. Let's scale back from that. And how would that look like in positions? Like, as you were saying, someone that needs exactly, that this is your role in the business. For example, it might be you as solopreneur might have 2-3 employees in this scenario, but actually you figure out, hey, they are doing everything in this scenario. So how would you take the talent that you already have to not waste it because they are good workers? How would you apply your strategy here?
Well, I'd ask the question to the seller, what level of KPI or expectation, key performance indicator or expectation, do you currently lay out against this talent? Do they have a roadmap as to what's expected of them, how they can further their career, how they can focus on a specific area? Like, what's your level of dialogue? Are you doing 360 performance management work? Are you putting them on performance improvement plans if they're not delivering? Like, how invested are you in growing your team and your talent, and how much are you actually tracking the baseline of their output? If you're just sitting there, and again, I'm saying things that I'm guilty of myself. So, I mean, no offense about any of this stuff. I have been there, and it has worked for me, and it's gotten me to the next stage and the next stage. But, if you're sitting there and you're counting the number of hours in how many hours your VA is delivering and paying them based on just the number of hours of input, then what you're effectively doing is you're incentivizing them to show up. You're not really incentivizing them to deliver on outputs that are aligned with your business objectives, right? And therefore your hopefully life goals. And, we live in a capitalist society here. So, everyone who's listening in here, everyone's trying to make money, right? So, at the end of the day, you really have to make sure that these are all aligned. So even just having some level of regular touch point and cadence driving towards some specific goal that you can actually measure it, and they can be really simple to start with. Like, let's say you had a launch manager, for example, and that launch manager, you'd have KPIs like rank 5 new products each quarter on page 1 and keep them there for longer than a 90-day period, or like 90% uptime on top of page 1, whatever it is. Like, you can make your own metrics. But the point I'm making here is that I think most people don't even set out, they label out tasks that VAs need to deliver on. They don't define that against business objectives. And so you're doing 2 things here. One is you're not tracking and measuring any sort of movement. So yeah, they might be getting better. Maybe they're not. You probably have a gut feel. And 2, you're not really sure if that's moving the needle in terms of the business as well. So you're doing them a disservice, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing your business a disservice, because it's not going to be that hard to become that little bit more strategic. And yeah, I think those are like fundamental building blocks to getting to that next layer. Because as you continue to grow, we just went through a 4 disciplines of execution, strategy workshop, where we're building the roadmap for what does our wildly important goal look like that we want to achieve as a company by the end of 2022. So, that's where and we have a 3-year vision and a 5-year vision being worked on as we speak to really sort of align with who are we going to be tomorrow. And so that's sort of, when you build these initial structures, that's the ladder or the steps that start to help you understand things like lead and lag measures. You really have to be understanding your business metrics and outputs. Like, what gets measured gets managed. And if you're not measuring what's going on, then, you're gonna win either way, or you're gonna lose either way, because there's not really a goal or an objective that you're driving toward, and neither are they.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that. See, like most of the time, what I notice, you're very like analytical as person, right? Most people, yet again, might be analytical, might not. I see most in entrepreneurs or startup builders, they're very like vision. They are like very like in the future focused somehow. And this also helps you to become very efficient at how to scale or how to see things in the future, right? Because you're like dialing back things. I, for myself, I'm not like that. I'm very creative. I'm very like relationship organized. Like I'm towards that direction, and I am not the only one, and we just recently took the 5 strengths, I think the strengths based leadership, something like that. And that's exactly showing you, okay, who you are and where do you excel, And for example, I am not very much into this, yet I am a business owner. I am still successful. So how do I still yet can become someone who's like focused and very like analytical and very like understand their business successfully, or someone like who's like me and had maybe nothing to do with business beforehand, but yet still it's successful. So somehow
I'll tell you exactly how you do that, because I'm actually more of a creative myself. So I don't really care too much for numbers. I have all that data, but that's not what drives me. That's not what I'm passionate about, is the bottom line and the numbers. I want to solve problems. I want to be working on bigger and more wicked problems. That's the excitement for me. And so I think much like founders of Amazon businesses who love the product, I love the problems that we're trying to solve at scale, and I love the rolling complexity of it. So I have a management consulting practice, right? It's on process improvement. I am not a management consultant, nor have I ever been a management consultant. I've never built a process improvement plan, SOPs, training videos, documents. I've never done any of that stuff in my life. And so how I approach all these things is there's always going to be a way in which you can figure it out. So for example, depending on where you're at, I'm going to be more specific around what I would do as an Amazon seller here, but there's all of these solutions that exist, right? Like you can get a fractional and they will give you the cost drivers of your business, and you'll get a very clear understanding. We're using a fractional CFO. They're called Arcona. They're unbelievable. It's probably been some of the best investment that we've had in recent times, giving us that level of visibility. So I'd say on the first hand, there's lots of professional services that can give you we have a legal transfer pricing legal team and lawyers that we've rendered, just because I live in Tel Aviv and there's company in the US and there's a company here and how are they connected and all that, all that stuff. I'm never going to learn about how to do anything. So I find the solutions or the people that have those answers, or I hire them internally as well. So, that's how I've been able to solve massive knowledge gaps. And then also through that process, especially when you bring them in-house, like we have a defined budgeting process now. Our accounts payable, receivable, and financial control is set up, exercises that I hadn't done at any real level of deep sophistication before. So I effectively got to go through that just from learning about it, the process improvement. Now I'm an expert on process improvement. Well, I understand our methodology clearly. I understand the value proposition. I understand how it all works, and I understand how to sell the solution, and I understand, how to do it. I've never actually delivered it physically myself ever at any one point in time. There's lots of gaps in my knowledge. So to the point is like, not all this stuff is scary until you take that leap and someone demystifies it for you and you find the right service provider or the right resource or, element that you can find the answers that you need.
Yeah, I love that you're saying demystified. That's exactly the word. Most people are so afraid of things that they don't know and don't understand it. That's why you're afraid of it, you know. And I love that you're saying, hey, that's all what it takes. Just understand the process, you know. And also, like here, probably it has to do that we're also like coming from a family that is like we have to do all the work, so we won't count on someone else, you know, which is great because you're a hard worker and like, well, like you're responsible. In the same times, you will rely only on yourself, you know. And I see that most Amazon sellers are really hard workers, so they are really like putting in effort, you know. And it pains me to see people who are so talented that I was just having this discussion like 2 weeks ago or so on, and I said, "Hey, I just hired our first VA, and she's brilliant and so on." And I was saying like, "Yeah," and now I cannot imagine how I put myself into someone's like we are paying her around $1,000 or so on, you know. And I was like, that was my salary the whole year. This is the value that I put on myself, you know. And that was aha moment. Most people are not even there yet, and they are successful sellers, you know. So I'm thinking yet again, exactly as you were saying, hey, demystify, because this is also a process to finding the right people, right, and demystifying. And on that note, I just want to quote something that I found on your LinkedIn that I found super helpful. It says that I am a firm believer that in life, you must always be win-win. If at any stage someone is getting the better end of the bargain, there's no partnership there. And this is going to lead us into the hiring process. So if someone didn't yet hired some, like their first help, let's say this way, or their first like professional who can really help them in their business, how would that look like?
Yeah, well, I mean, how I approach it, and yeah, it's funny to hear that quoted out, but you know, that's really my firm belief is that you always want to be creating win-win situations for everyone. I never want to feel like I got the better end of the deal or they got the better end of the deal. It's toxic. And at the end of the day, like, you know, even the way I look at it, like I don't look at us as a service provider. I look at us as a partner to the businesses. Like we're only working with them in the hopes that they grow and we add intrinsic value to their operation and we grow together. So when it comes to hiring as well, you know, the last thing I'm trying to do is negotiate people's salaries down because at the end of the day, I want the person to come in who's the right fit for the role and can achieve that mission through delivering on the outcomes and have all the attributes that I need them to have in order to be successful. I want them to be extremely happy doing it and be the right person for that role. So what I'm looking to do is people will always deliver on what you incentivize them to. And so what I want to do is I want to create a performance management or a package that is aligned with the business's best interests and have it together. So, you know, having recruiters make placements, for example, as a really basic one. Actually, we build things like team incentives because we want to have cross collaboration. So we really want our team to work hand in hand and support each other and, you know, build our culture. But I would just say like, yeah, understand where they're at, understand what their motivators are. So is it working remotely because they have to go 2 hours each way and commute to an office? Is it that, you know, they've just had a new child and they have, you know, increased expenses. So they've been at a company for 5 years and now they're looking for that big pay bump because the company didn't come through. They didn't understand the talent they had sitting under their nose, for example. Like, what is it that's going to motivate them? And then what is it that you can attach toward the company and then build a way forward? So, you know, I would say that that's like a really good starting point to creating that win-win. Again, if you're thinking also about being like a big seller and you're really committed to the process of what that looks like, then I would say like one of the more strategic things you can do, and if you can afford to do it, is hiring. Assuming you've gone through this process before, but hiring, like if you're going to build out departments, hire the department heads first. They're going to know people to bring in. They're going to have built this before. It saves you a lot of time building out from sort of the top down of a department, then the bottom up. It also can create a really uncomfortable scenario where, you know, for me, I really always want to promote people from within. I want the outputs and the inputs that they deliver to the business for them to be rewarded and promoted. So when you sort of start from the bottom up, which a lot of people do, right? Because I couldn't afford that next person, then that next person. And, you know, at some point, depending on how quickly you grow, there will be a gap. They won't be able to handle the operation at the size. It's very different to having a startup, in its first 12 months or 2 years or whatever, to a business that's 4 or 5 years on and maybe really matured in that time. So hiring the right people at the right times is also a really critical thing, or hiring them at the right times and then growing them to the necessary talent that they need to be in the future, or hiring someone more senior and bringing in that team and really just doubling down on what that looks like. Could talk about this stuff forever.
No, that's great advice. See, like I would have never thought of that. Like, okay, you hire the head and then the head is going to bring the rest of people who actually they need. That's brilliant. And that goes hand in hand, I think, with like, which are the top 3 common mistakes that you see newbie sellers or newbie to hiring process make whenever they are starting to hire, either with your help or either their own?
Yeah, I would say that the mistakes they make is they don't define what success looks like. So they're not really driving toward an outcome from day one. They'll just grab a job description online because it looks like something that makes sense to them. It's just like downloading someone else's SOPs. It's not really going to work for every business. Every business is built different. So you really have to adjust to what's going to work for you and what success looks like in your desired outcome. So I'd say that's the first thing. I would say the second thing is that they don't actually give it enough time to see if it's a right fit. So, this would also go down as another mistake. So I'll sort of wrap 2 mistakes in here. But if you fail to onboard the person and build an onboarding plan so that she or he is successful in the role that they're playing, then realistically, there's no yardstick or measure. They're not integrated properly in the business. And so what ends up happening is sellers will make that mistake, and then they'll say, well, it's been 30 days, it's been 60 days, it didn't work. And I think for a lot of business owners going through it, they haven't learned how to be managers yet. They've been very much executional, delivery, researching all into the wee hours of the night, how to build the best PPC strategy, or, how do I do search, find, buy, or how do I build, whatever hacks and tricks. Like there's no secrets that you'll find that are really going to take you to that next level, unless you really invest in understanding how do you, like, I think a lot of founders, where they go wrong is they think about themselves as the business. Like they marry their identity and their output with the business. And the reality is, when you think that way, that you are the critical link, it's very hard to let go, and it's very hard to scale. You can't, unfortunately, we all only have 168 hours a week that we can, hopefully not investing all 168 hours or anything even remotely close to that. But, you are not a scalable solution. So you've got to build the onboarding plan to make sure people are actually aligned. And then you've got to give it time to understand, is this a fit or isn't this a fit? I mean, if I'd let go of every person that from day one, they weren't delivering on the output that I'd hoped for, I would have literally 0 employees. Realistically, we'd have no team members, because no one delivers on day one. Even your most talented people, they have to understand the business. The average time it takes is somewhere between 6 and 12 months. If you build an onboarding plan, you can really bring that down to within 3 months in some cases. In a Scala, we've gotten it down to about 2 weeks now. We can already put people out and start delivering on solutions about 2 weeks in as a junior, not as a senior or as a principal or as any of the senior management, but they can already go through an onboarding process that's mostly automated through ClickUp, and there's touch points with their line manager. And that's how, you build a replicable, scalable agency, or for us, a consultancy.
Brilliant. I love it. No, so I love it that you mentioned ClickUp. That's something that we started to use, and I'm just in love in ClickUp. It's
great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, and also it's very portable. So definitely. Yoni, are there any questions that I should have asked? Wait, let's repeat backwards. Are there any questions that I should have asked and I haven't?
How long's a piece of string? No.
How much time do you have?
Yeah. I'm joking. You've asked great questions. I think we've covered a lot in such a short period of time. There's nothing that really stands out to me. Again, we're talking to a broad audience here, and people at all different levels. I would just say, like, if there's one takeaway as you're looking to build your dream business, really think about what does your lifestyle look like and what does that really take from your level of commitment. And like anything, and I'll give you the quote that is one of my favorites. It's, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend my first 4 sharpening my axe. And that was by Abraham Lincoln. And that's the reality, is like, invest in doing the work as to what does my business look like? What is it? What are the financial models and how does it break down? What is it going to be in the future? And what is my, longer term strategy? Is this a lifestyle business where I can glean whatever you need, $80, $100, $200,000 off it every year and continue to live like this for the next 20 years, 30 years and retire happily? Or is this something where I want to have an exit and drive toward that outcome? And, really measuring the steps from, not going from, 0 to 100 in one go, but, there's steps that you can take to really start looking at your business as a business and not just in an Amazon store.
Brilliant. You just gave, you dropped a lot of golden nuggets. So anyone listening to this or viewing this, please watch it once again and listen to it once again, because it's really, really important. And as many times as you're going to listen to it once again, you're going to discover new things or something that you thought that you understood, but you didn't. So definitely. To be super respectful of your time before we wrap up, I would like to ask 4 quick questions. The first of them being, which would be your superpower and why?
My superpower,
yes.
like a random superpower or a superpower that
I don't know.
I would say, I would say finding talent. That's my superpower. So I think finding the best people is my superpower.
And which one would you like to be the superpower if you wouldn't have this one? Anything.
I wish I was as good as that as I was at operations, which I'm not. I'm not operationally, I can build. I don't love to do things like project management. I wish I had more attention to detail around the financials and around the operations. I wish that was something that I possess that I don't. And I think, like you, for a lot of creatives, it's the unattainable thing, but I've accepted that that's never going to be my drive. So, don't fight it.
Love it. All right. What is your $50 or less investment you recently made that helped you to get better at hiring?
I would purchase the book, Who, the A Method for Hiring. It'll probably be well under that, and that'll help get you there. I'd say you could probably squeeze in another book like Working Backwards by a couple of very senior Amazon execs and talking about their hiring model. I really like some of the inputs that they have in their STAR method. So there's 2 books. I read a lot of books. That's really my big knowledge source.
Yeah. And you just answered to my next question. What are your top 3 favorite books and why? So are you still sticking with this one, the Who the A Method and Working Backwards?
I'll give you 3 more. I would say that my 3 recommendations, depending on where you're at, right? So if you aren't into professional development books and you've never done anything like that before, I'd say the one that really got me started on this whole journey was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That was really eye-opening. It's a little bit of a tough read compared to some of the ones that are a bit lighter, but I felt like it had really actionable insights, not like sort of the Gary V's of the world where it's go out in there and do everything. It's really how I can look at the world and how I can be more productive and efficient, what I can do. And it really educates you. So that would be one. I would say another one is Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. So Multipliers is how the best leaders make those around them smarter. So it talks a lot about multipliers and diminishers, and they define a multiplier as someone who gets significantly more out of their team, and diminishers, often accidental, are people who aren't really seeing the full realized potential of their team. And the last one I would say would be The Sales Acceleration Formula by Mark Roberge. So he is the guy who built the HubSpot sales team from nothing to 100 million in recurring revenue in 7 years. And so that book, while focused on sales acceleration, really gives you a lot of insights around talent to bring in and how to analytically look at the business, and really, really smart guy. So yeah, that would be 3 that would just be another 3. How much time have you got?
As much as you need.
Yeah, no, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there for now.
So you're the first one that I could actually get 5 books from, which is like, yeah, building up my library, Yoni, thank you so much for your time. This was, as I was saying, it's priceless or invaluable, or how do you say this? It's super, super.
Both.
There you go.
As in, I would disagree with you, and I would say there's probably more valuable things people can do. But if you're listening that this long, then you've really clearly seen value in hearing me talk. So thank you. But no, invaluable, priceless. That's what you were going for, and yeah. Thanks for having me. It was awesome. I think you asked some of the best questions out there, and yeah, it's a real pleasure each time to sit here with you.
Thank you. And especially when someone is telling you that you're asking the best question, it's like, of course. Thank you so much. Yoni, before you're leaving, how can people get to get in touch with you, to find out more about the Scala MultyiplyMii or at least to say hi or something like that? What's the best place for that?
Yeah, if they want to say hi, Yoni Kozminski on LinkedIn, you'll find me. I'm relatively active on LinkedIn. You can email me, Yoni at MultyiplyMii, spelled MII, the me, or We Are a Scala for Yoni at We Are a Scala if you want to get me directly. But if you're looking at either of our solutions, you can literally jump on either website and it'll take you to Kat at MultyiplyMii. And I think a Scala is still taking you to me. So you'll get me as well.
Okay, that sounds amazing. Thank you once again for your time, and thank you everyone listening. See you next Thursday. Bye-bye.
It was fun sharing this episode with you. If you found value in what you've heard, please show your love with a subscribe, rate, and review of the show. Until next time.